Greetings everyone. This is Dhananjay Vora of Group TG1 presenting the video streaming assignment. So today we will learn some basics of what RTSP and RTP is and implementation of video streaming using RTSP and RTP. So RTP, Real-Time Transport Protocol, is designed to handle real-time traffic like audio and video of the internet, and it must be used with UDP. It is a transport layer protocol. It does not have any delivery mechanism like multicasting or port numbers. RTP supports different formats of files like MPEG and MJPEG. Applications of RTP. First, RTP mainly helps in media mixing, sequencing and time-stamping. Second, Voice over Internet Protocol. Third, video conferencing over Internet. And fourth, Internet audio and video streaming. Now what is RTSP? RTSP, Real-Time Streaming Protocol, is an application layer protocol designed for multiplexing and packetizing multimedia transport streams over a suitable transport protocol. It uses RTP as the underlying data delivery protocol and offers a VCR-like control to the user interface, like play, pause, stop, etc. RTSP also helps the server to adjust the media bandwidth to the network congestion in order to suit the available capacity. Now the working of the RTSP. Before client can establish this streaming session, it somehow has to get the session description from the web server using HTTP protocol. According to the information in the session description, the client sends RTSP setup request to streaming server. Now the RTSP methods. Setup. Server allocates resources for a stream and starts an RTSP session. Play starts data transmission on a stream, that is, video starts playing. Pause temporarily halts a stream, that is, video pauses. And tear down free resources of the stream. No RTSP session on server anymore. Now we will move on to the code. So this is the server code. Here we will define the server port, which will take one system argument to make the server ring. We will create an RTSP socket and bind it to the server port. And here the RTSP socket.listen shows the maximum client that can connect to the server. Now this is the code for accepting client connecting requests for the establishment of the network, and we will call the server worker. Now this is the code for the server worker. First, defining variables used, that is RTSP methods, states of the server, that is initial, ready, playing, and here the state initial defines the current state of the server, that is the initial state. Now here first we will create the thread for each client to receive RTSP request and receive data and call process RTSP request in the receive RTSP request function. Now in the process RTSP request function, we will extract sequence number and the request type. Then after knowing the request type, it follows the specific processes made by the request, that is setup, play, pause, teardown, etc. Now these are the code for the setup request, play request, pause request, and teardown request. Now in the send RTP function, It will send data from server to client using RTP protocols. It will get data from video streaming class and frame number also, and it will send data to the client. In make RTP function, it will create RTP packet consisting of headers and data. In the reply RTP function, it is for to send RTSP reply to the client like 200 OK and 404 not found. Now moving on to the RTP packet code. It has different functions like encoder, decoder, sequence number, etc. In the encoder, we are setting different header bits. Now here in the initial phase of the code, we have initialized the header size as 12 bytes. And we are creating a byte array for the header. Now in the decode function, the decode byte, it will decode byte array and return the data. And in the sequence number function, it will return the current sequence. And similarly for all the functions, it will return timestamp, return payload type, return payload, return RTP packet, etc. Now moving on to the client launcher code, it will accept four system arguments, that is server address, server port, RTP port, and the file name. It is for making a GUI using Tinter library, which is a Python library used for fast GUI rendering, and we will create a new client, for which we will go into the client code. First, defining the variables used and the states. Then the constructors of the client class. Here we are calling the connect to server function. So we will see what it does. So connect to server, actually it connects to the server and create a new RTSP session. It will create a new socket which will take two arguments, server address and server port, to connect to the server. Now moving up to the create widget function, which will build the GUI of the video streaming platform, like the setup button, play button, pause button, tear down button, which will call the following respective functions like setup movie, play movie, pause movie, exit client. Now if we see here, we get the setup movie, which is basically requesting setup from the server. Then the tear down button, it is basically requesting the tear down method. Pause method requesting pause from the server, and play movie requesting play from the server. Now moving on to the listen RTP function. It listens for the RTP packets, creating RTP socket, storing it into the data, decoding the data received from the server. We will get the current frame number, payload length, etc. If the current frame number is greater than the frame number stored on the client side, then only client will accept the packet. Otherwise, we will discard it. Now the calculations for the update of the status, and we will stop listening upon requesting pause or tear down. Upon receiving acknowledge for tear down request, it will close the RTP socket. Now here from the right frame function, it write the received frame to a temporary image file and return the image file. The update movie function here is for the video frame in the GUI. Now moving on to the send RTSP request function. Here it will send RTSP request to the server from the client. In the setup request, in the setup state, the state is in the initial phase. So when there is a setup request, the it will update the RTSP sequence number by +1 and write the RTSP request sent to be sent. Now it will also keep track of the sent request. Now for the play request, it is the same. Now the server is in the ready state, so it will update the RTSP sequence number by 1 +1 and send the play request. We have to keep track of the sent request, then the same for pause request and the tear down request. This is the code for sending the RTSP request using RTSP socket, including frame number. Now coming to the receiving RTS reply, we are getting the reply from the server to the client, receiving RTSP reply. Here we are decoding the reply sent by the server at the client side and closing the RTSP socket upon requesting tear down. If the client requests to tear down, then server closes the connection. This function is for processing the RTSP reply from the server. It will process only if the server's replies sequence number is the same as the request, creating new RTSP session ID. Process only if the session ID is the same. Going through update in the RTP state, open RTP port, etc. and playing the thread that exists. And in the end, when tear down is requested, select the tear down acknowledge to close this socket. Now in the open RTP port function, open the RTP socket, bind it to a specified port. It creates a new datagram socket to receive RTP packets from the server. Set the timeout value of this socket to 0.5 second. Binding this socket to the address using the RTP port given by the client user. And then the handler function. Handler on explicitly closing the GUI window. Now implementing the code in the terminal. So this is the server side and this is the client side. So this is the GUI. You can see the setup, play, pause, tear down, and we will let's just try the setup. So server client says it has sent the data for the setup of the movie, that is video sharing, video streaming, and the user has received the data of the setup. Now let's start play the video. You can see the sequence number coming and the video being played. Now let's pause it and look at the server side. So you can see we got the data to play the movie, that is sequence number 2 and processing play. Next, when we pause the video, we got the data received, that is sequence number 3 and the processing pause. Now let's just tear down. Now it has teared down the video streaming and we have uh, terminated the connection to the server. So thank you for this.